What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another week of Fiery Fridays. The draft has happened. A few trades have gone on as well. Um, Big week of NBA basketball. The Summer League is next week. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be in Vegas as well, so hopefully I can catch a few games. Hopefully Wembanyama is playing. Um, Bailey, how you been?
Yeah, good. Like I kind of predicted the draft wasn't as exciting as we
Yeah.
always expect. Kind of always happens where we get really keen expecting all this stuff and teams like to play it a bit safe. But nonetheless, there was still a few moves that make things interesting. And the draft order, was I'd say a lot of people probably could have predicted, say the first five, maybe even six. And then like it was still good to see some teams make a little bit of bold moves here and there. But yeah, keen for summer league, see how they all go.
Yep. We'll start off with the draft. That's the biggest thing that's happened in the past week. We'll get into your biggest winners and losers of the draft. I'll start with my biggest winners and losers from the draft, who I thought came away with the best picks, and the smartest trades. I thought Indiana did pretty well to trade down and still get the guy they wanted at 7 and 8. They got Jarris Walker. I don't think Koulibaly would have fit in their system, and I think they took him knowing the Wizards and other teams would want Koulibaly. So I think the Pacers did pretty well. They got a future. They got 2 future seconds, and they still got the player they wanted out of Jarris Walker. I thought the Mavs did really well. They were going to take Lively all along, I've heard, and they traded down 2 spots to get Derek Lively. And they also got off Davis Bertans' contract, terrible contract that he was on. They got Rashawn Holmes. They also took Maximus Prosper, who was the 24th pick. They got him off the Kings with Rashawn Holmes. So I think the Mavs did pretty well. They got some size. I think that's sort of what the Mavs needed. And they got Maximus Prosper pretty late in the draft. I thought he should have gone lower. And then obviously the Rockets did pretty well to get Armin fourth, and they were tossing between Armin and Cam Whitmore. They got Cam Whitmore all the way down at 20, which is ridiculous. I'm not sure what his medicals were and what the reason was for that, but I think those three are probably my biggest winners of draft night.
Yeah, definitely agree with you with the Rockets, but I think you just play it, pretty simply. The Spurs obviously getting exactly who anyone wanted on that draft board. They get to go into, the next season as a potential play-in chance with Wemby's first season. And I suppose I actually think Portland won here because I do think that if Scoot ended up going second, they were in a world of hurt with Miller. I just don't know I feel like it's a bit more, I don't know how to explain it. They just look a bit more deadly with Scoot there rather than Miller when you've got a small forward. First season probably not going to be as dynamic, you'd think, especially, playing in the G League Ignite team. So I think Portland have done really well at this stage. Now, what they do with that, I don't know. I know they're not planning on doing this at all, but I still think you try and move Lillard. That'd be my goal. I just don't think that this is going to work. Like, I think there's talks going around. I think they've done well so far, but there's talks going around that Draymond possibly and maybe Jeremy Grant. So if you're looking at, Lillard, Scoot, Grant, Draymond, Nurkic, maybe Anthony Simon starts instead and Draymond plays the 5, whatever it is, do you still see them being a potential championship team? Like, I still don't see that as good enough, probably. So I think they've done really well to get Scoot because I thought they'd be in danger of, Miller did go third. I just think, what do you do there? But now, yeah, I think it's time to flip it all around.
Yeah, I agree. Um, another good pick, I reckon, was Anthony Black to the Magic. I
Yes,
thought
great pick.
it's had a little time to settle. I didn't like it at first. Obviously, they've got an overload of guards there, and it's not the perfect place I'd want Anthony Black to go. But I've seen a few depth charts, and I think he's going to be really good for them.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the Pistons should have considered him at 5 over Osar Thompson. But Magic's going to be a good place for Anthony Black. They just need that one more piece. I think Paolo and Franz are kind of their Batman and Robin. And they just need that third piece, I think, to get them over the line. So Magic are going to be good. They've got one of the best young cores in the league. And I think
Yeah.
Anthony Black was a great pick.
Yeah. Agreed.
Not sure about their 11th pick in Jed Howard, but we'll see how we go.
What position is he?
He's a 2 or 3. I think he
Okay.
stands at about 6'6", 6'7".
Right.
Son of JUN Howard, who used to be in the league, played at Michigan. All right, he was
Shooter
predicted to
or
go around, he was predicted to go around 18, 19, but
right.
got him at 11. I think they could have traded down and still got him,
Yeah.
but they've obviously been really keen on him. So
Yeah.
interesting. The Chris Paul trade happened last week. Big blockbuster trade, where Chris Paul has been sent to what some would call his rivals in the Golden State Warriors. Him and Steph Curry have been battling out for years, and now he's going to go join them. They gave up Ryan Rollins, the first round pick in 2030, which is protected. They gave up a 2027 second round pick. They gave up Patrick Baldwin, who was added later, who was a late draft pick for them last year, or the year before. I think it was last year. And then Jordan Poole, who was a late first round pick and has been pretty big for them. Obviously, he won a championship with those guys. What are your thoughts on the trade for both teams?
First of all, I think it's just positive for both. You look at Warriors. Most of the season, Paul was coming off the bench.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so you just go and swap that out with Chris Paul, who I think, I mean, come playoff time, he hasn't been that dynamic in the past few years compared to his Rockets days. But you throw him in there now. I don't know. I'm assuming he's going to come off as 6-man, which I think would be ideal. He'll still get his time with Curry, Clay, etc. But you just bring him off the bench. Curry's getting a little bit older now. He can still run that second unit, and probably be. They don't need that much scoring Golden State. And Paul is obviously a dynamic scorer, whereas Chris Paul's more of a, get everyone involved. And I think that's really going to help them come the postseason instead of just, having another 3-point shooter who, can get his own buckets. But when things aren't going to plan, it seems to be a little bit, it can go wayward fast. Whereas Chris Paul's not like that. He'll know how to get into his role. And we always see, whenever Chris Paul goes to a team, he, makes them better. You can look at the Thunder. I think the Suns, the next season, what did they almost made it. Did they make it to the Western Conference Finals with him? I mean, they might have made the finals with him.
who's this?
Chris Paul.
Yeah, against the
Yeah.
Bucks. Yeah,
Yeah. So there you go. Like that was first year that he went there, maybe second year. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was his first year. So he always makes the team better. And I think he'll do the same thing with Golden State. Whether they start him or not, I'd much rather him come off the bench and he'll get his time with Curry, and that's going to be hard to stop. Imagine Chris Paul creating his own shot. You're not going to be able to help off Curry or Clay, and then you've got that lob threat underneath. So they'll be really dangerous. And of course, Washington, really, what else could you want? You get a go-to guy to get your fans there, and he's probably going to average, plus 23 points a game. A good to watch to the eye as well. Makes this whole rebuilding, not as bad. He's not going to get them anywhere special, but at the same time, he's a player who's young, on the up, and yeah, I'm sure he's going to love it there too, being able to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants.
yeah. I'm going to disagree that Chris Paul comes off the bench. I think they start him. He's second in the league in assisted 3-pointers. And that's not with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on his team. So if they try and keep Draymond, I'm not sure, but I would be going for the approach of Chris Paul, Steph, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond. And if it's not Draymond, then I'd put Looney there. I think their biggest priority is to bring Draymond back. He's a big part of that team. I'm not sure how good Draymond's going to be on another team. He only puts up 7, 7, and 6. Which Ben Simmons put up last year, and everyone's saying he's falling off and won't be in the league next year. So obviously Draymond brings more than the stats say.
Yeah.
But I think it is a big priority that they bring Draymond back. He plays very well with those guys, and I'm not sure if it's gonna, be the same on another team. Jordan Poole for the Wizards, big pickup. I mean, they got rarely anything for Bradley Beal, and they got Landry Shamet. And second rounders, obviously they couldn't really help that. New front office, obviously on a bad deal, no trade clause. Porzingis trade, we only got Tyus Jones. not the best pickup for Porzingis, who's a borderline all-star and probably will be an all-star on the Celtics next year. And then we get Chris Paul, who's 38 on an expiring contract, and we flip it for Jordan Poole, Rollins, Patrick Baldwin, who are both young. We get a first round out of it. Finally, we get a first round pick and then a second round pick. So that's the first win for the front office, I feel like. Warriors kind of get rid of Poole, who had a bit of a bad year last year, but he played all 82 games last year, which is good to see. He started in 43 of them. I think Clay was out for some time. I could be wrong. Curry was out for a little bit as well.
Yeah.
He averaged 20 points, 4.5 assists. He shot 52% from the field, 33% from deep. So they're not terrible numbers. And I think, being that third option or even fourth option on that Warriors team and now becoming the first option on a Wizards team, it's going to be a huge step up for him. Definitely a player to look out for most improved. So I'm happy with the trade. I like it for Warriors. It makes them a bit more competitive and less attention on Curry, I feel like. And when it gets to playoff basketball, you're not seeing Jordan Poole doing tween through the legs, pulling logo bombs. You're going to see Chris Paul facilitating the offense. So I think it's good for them. Good for the Wizards as well, and a good place for Jordan Poole to kind of blossom. So I like the trade. Question number 3. Who are you most excited to see in the Summer League next week? Players-wise, matchups-wise, fits-wise, etc.
Well, definitely Wemby, but there's doubts that he's going to play, isn't there?
Yeah, it's not confirmed, but he says he's going to, so we'll see.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
not
yeah,
not, not the whole Summer League. I reckon he'll play
yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah,
couple.
yeah.
But we'll see.
Well, obviously him. If not, Anthony Black, I was keen for him to go, top 4 coming in to it. Yeah, Scoot and Miller to see how, because they were obviously very, very close to, where they go. It's pretty simple for me, probably the first 3 and Anthony Black as well. He's probably, other than Wemby, the most keen I'm to see, because I think he's going to be a player who right away fits the league where he can play defense and facilitate, really well.
Yeah. I'm keen to see Grady Dick. Obviously, he got picked pretty early, from my opinion. But he's a 6'8" shooter, and obviously on the Summer League team, he's on the Raptors team. He's going to have to not just be a shooter, but I want to see him kind of, score and facilitate by himself. So I'm keen to see how he goes. There's a lot of hype around him. He's quickly becoming an internet sensation. Koulibaly, I feel like he was picked relatively early. Obviously, he's on my Wizards. I'm keen to see how he goes. Obviously, he was playing in the under-20s and doing pretty well, so they put him in the Opens team for that Metropolitans, and he became a starter for them. So he's quickly rising. He obviously had a growth spurt as well. I think he shot up from 6'3" to 6'7", and he was playing point guard his whole life, so he's still got those guard skills. So I'm kind of keen to see how he goes, not only in the Summer League, but the season. And another one I'm interested on, I've been a big fan of Casey Wallace, but I don't think he's going to surprise me. I think he's just going to do what he's been doing in college, and that's, small defensive guard. I think he's going to play solid. But I'm keen to see Keontae George. Who else am I keen to see? I'm keen to see Nick Smith Jr. He was predicted to go 3rd at the start of the year. I remember there was talks of him going 2nd, and he fell all the way to 27th. Obviously, he was on that Arkansas team with Jordan Walsh, Anthony Black, Noah Clowney. Sorry, not Noah Clowney. Who else is on that Arkansas team? I can't think of him right now, but Nick Smith Jr. to the Hornets. Keen to see him go off. He's got a sort of Bones Highland sort of play style. And I think Summer League's going to be fun. It's going to be good to see. So, yeah. Brendan Miller, I'm keen to see as well. Hopefully he proves people wrong. I know a lot of Hornets fans are kind of angry about the pick, but I think Brendan Miller plays Wembanyama next Tuesday, the first game. So Hornets play the Spurs, and then Scoot plays Armin Thompson. Blazers play the Rockets. And they're both on the Tuesday next week to start the Summer League. So should be good. I'm excited. We'll move on to question 4. Obviously, Aussie guy Mojave King was drafted in the draft. He went 47th to the Lakers. The pick was traded to the Pacers. What are your thoughts on Mojave getting drafted? And does he fit on this Pacers roster? Will we see him in the G League another year? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, obviously it's great for him. You go back a few years and there was quite a debate with Mojave and Giddy, they were both, top-notch players, and Giddy kind of went on with it a little bit earlier, but, he's ended up making it there. I suppose just the question is whether how much they play him, whether they're going to put him in the G League side, see how he goes, whatever it is. But, hope he'll be playing Summer League, you'd think,
Yeah,
almost every game.
yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to see how he goes. I'm sure he'll, put his best foot forward. Quite a he's got a good build, but at the same time, he's a little bit bigger, I'd say. For a guy who, but he's always been a great shooter. So we'll have to see how he goes. But yeah, I've got faith in him.
yeah. Like you said a few years ago, there was debate whether him or Giddy were the best players in the country. His route has been a little bit more rough than Giddy's. He had that rocky season at Cairns where he didn't get many minutes, and then he transferred over to Adelaide. A bit of a better season than Cairns, but still, struggling to see the court. And then he went over to the G League where I thought he had a lot more chances over there. There was a few games where he went off and showed his ability, and obviously he did that All-Star weekend where he played against the NBA guys. And I thought he did pretty well there as well. Only averaged 9, 4, and 1 in the G League. His shooting was a little bit off, but obviously he must have impressed in the pre-workouts. And I've seen this guy work out. I've been following him for a while. And I know what he's capable of. He's definitely one of the best players in the country, and I think he'll be a future boomer. So I think the Pacers got a good one. Hopefully he finds his way into the roster. He's going to have to ball out in Summer League, but I think he will spend the season with the Mad Ants, which is the Pacers G League affiliate, and then eventually, hopefully, make his way, onto the end of the Pacers bench, and then hopefully further than that. So it's good to see Mojave drafted. And then the next player is probably going to be Tyrese or Alex Tui. So looking forward to it. We'll get into our questions of the week. I'll start with mine. Most improved player markets have come out on the betting apps. There's a few interesting ones. The favorite is Mikal Bridges. But I'm going to ask you if you had to put all your money on someone next year. Obviously, you don't know where everyone's going yet. You have some sort of idea. Who would be your pick for the most improved player?
Can you read me out a few of the names? Because
Yeah, I will.
it's kind of hard to just pick one off the top of my head.
Is there anyone that comes to your head straight away?
Yeah, just give me a sec, I guess.
Uh, so Mikal Bridges is paying $6.
Mm-hmm.
Cade Cunningham is paying $10. Austin Reeves is 15. Şengün is 17. Scotty Barnes, 17. Tyus Jones, 17. Giddy, 19. Mobley, 21. And then you've got guys like Shaden Sharp, Walker Kessler, Jordan Poole, Anthony Simons, Desmond Bain, Cam Johnson, Devin Vassell, etc.
Yeah, it's so tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Paul's probably a good one. Obviously gets you kind of looking for players like that who get to their own team. Honestly, as boring as it sounds, probably Paul off reading that list. I think Mikal Bridges could definitely go to that all-star level, and be, a 20 plus scorer a game, a couple of assists, rebounds, and, 2 or 3 steals, and guard their best player every game. Like I could see him going to that level. So I can understand why he's definitely favorite. Yeah, honestly, it's probably money on him or Paul at this stage. It's just too hard to tell. And if I probably had a bit more time to think about it, I reckon I would have been able to give you a better answer. But it's probably all I've got for you.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm going to say Jordan Poole. I think 20 off the bench, when he was the 4th option, and now he's going to be, the starter for the Wizards and probably the main scorer. I can't really see him averaging less than 25. He's going to have the ball in his hands and only young guys around him. So I think Jordan Poole's a great bet. It's paying $23. Alperen Şengün isn't a bad bet as well. He'll be starting for the Rockets. Have obviously upgraded the roster a little bit. And I liked what he did last year, but I think he can definitely fill a stat sheet. So I don't think he's a bad pick as well. Another one, no one really stands out to me as much. Jalen Green might be in for a big year. He's had a few rocky seasons. But yeah, Denny Avdia has to average more for the Wizards as well. I'm just trying to think that teams that got significantly worse With the players staying, they kind of have to step up. But those three would probably be my pick. Danny Avdia, Jordan Poole, or Alper and Şengün. I don't see Mikal Bridges really. He did a lot last year. I don't see him doing much significantly more. And especially if the Nets trying to add some pieces to their roster, I think his workload's going to go down a little bit. So I'm not too sure about Mikal Bridges. Let's hear your question of the week.
Pretty simple. Who do you have as coming out of the West and the East for 2023/4 season?
Um, it's hard to say without the rosters finalized, but if I had to make an early prediction, the West,
This will be good to look back at.
yeah, the West, I'm gonna stick with my prediction this year. The only reason that it got stunted this year is because of injuries. I'm gonna say the Clippers. One of our mates goes for the Clippers, so he'll probably be happy about that. But with Paul George and Kawhi, I still think they need a veteran guard. I don't like Bones starting. But the rest of the pieces even showed. They've got Westbrook.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
If they keep Westbrook, I know he's a free agent. Then I think they can do it. Zubac as well, good center. They've got pieces around that team. Norman Powell. I know they released Eric Gordon. I think it freed up 110 mil in the luxury cap space.
Yeah,
Not
something
not not
ridiculous.
100% sure what that means. But they've got their Covingtons. They've got their Brandon Boston, who doesn't really get minutes, but they've got a deep stack roster. And I like what the Clippers are doing, and I like what they did against the Nuggets. I know they didn't make Suns. Sorry, I know they didn't do too much damage, but I thought they competed without Paul George and Kawhi. And if those guys can get healthy, then I think the Clippers can do it. They just got to take down Denver, which is a bit of a tough scenario, but I think Paul George and Kawhi can definitely do it.
What
What were you gonna say?
what about the Suns now with Beal? You know,
I don't know. I think they don't. They're not going to have much coming off the bench. I'm not a huge believer in Devin Booker. Kevin Durant and Beal is pretty intimidating, but Paul George and Kawhi are definitely great defenders. Russell Westbrook's going to come out competitive, and I probably put my money on the Clippers at this current point. I'm
yeah,
not too sure who they have coming off the bench. They've only got Campaign, Ish Wainwright, Aiton, but I think they're going to get rid of him, and then the three stars. They've only
yeah,
got about 6 contracted players at the moment, so
yeah.
I can't pick the Suns, but I think they'll be up there. It'll be them, Warriors, Nuggets, Clippers, I think. Lakers should do all right as well, but we'll see.
Yeah.
East. In the East, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a bounce back year for who do I see the Clippers playing? I want to say Celtics. I thought they got a whole lot better with that Porzingis trade. It cleared up room for White and Brogdon. I know a lot of people didn't like that Smart got traded, and I know he was pretty big for them. He's been big for them the past few playoffs, but I think Porzingis is just a huge asset to have. He changes that team's sort of play style, and he's a great defender at the rim, can spread the floor as well, and he takes attention off Tatum and Brown. So I do think they got a lot better. So I'll probably say the Celtics, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bounce back year from Giannis and the Bucks, depending on what they do with the bench, depending if Middleton returns. But no one else in the East really intrigues me. If Lillard goes to Miami, then I'd consider it. That
Yeah.
would be a very good team, especially if they only get rid of Hero, Oladipo, etc., who didn't even really play in the playoffs this year. Anyone else in the East? Not really. That kind of speaking to me. So I'd probably say Celtics, Clippers if I had to put my money on it.
Yeah.
You have a different answer?
No, I agree with the Clippers. I think it's between them and the Suns. It's whether the Suns figure it out or not. But I'd be, safer option the Clippers. We were really keen on them both going into
Yeah.
this year. And they let us down a bit. I've got it. My thought with Kawhi is he, and I don't know, I'm not a doctor or anything, but when you have this long off and then you go straight into playoff, so say he's only played how many games do you reckon? 20? I'm just guessing. Say 20 games. He goes into the playoffs, the most high intensity it can be, and his body's not used to it. He just gets injured. Now, obviously, I don't know if that's true or right, but that's just a thought I had. Like you go from like half-assing it all season, and then bang, you're into the most intense thing. Like no wonder why you seem to get injured so much. Like I'd love to just see him play 70 games for 1 year, him and Paul George. And if they do that, then obviously it's going to help them chemistry-wise going in the playoffs as well. But I know there's probably someone out there going like, no, it doesn't work like that. So I reckon if they can get it sorted, they're definitely a chance. If they got Brogdon too, I'd be a lot more keen, I think. But still, they got to get Westbrook back. I think he was outstanding for them, really. And then you go to the East. If I had to make an early call, I'll just go with the Heat again. Like they haven't got anything worse, and I think with the pieces that they have, they'll have to. They don't have to, but they will make a trade to get better. Whereas the Celtics, I think will still be. I think they've gotten better too. But I think the Heat will also get better if they can pull this Lillard trade off. I think it would be great for the NBA. It'd make the Eastern Conference Finals dynamic. They were this year, but I think it just makes it that much more interesting. Like I couldn't really see the Heat and Lillard losing to a Celtics team. Like I just couldn't see it happening. But they'd probably be the only two. I don't see Philly being that competitive. Maybe the Hawks go a little bit further, but then once again they clash into those two teams. Yeah, I just don't see them beating them. So it'll be interesting.
A few dark horses in my opinion, but Pelicans. I like the layout of that team. Obviously, they haven't had Zion, but I think Zion is an MVP caliber player who averages 28 when he's healthy. So if he can play a lot of games this season and be good for them, they've got one of the best defensive sides in the league. They've got to put Dyson into the rotation a little bit. Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, CJ, great defensive side, and Ingram's only going to be getting better. Another dark horse team is Memphis. They've only got tougher with Marcus Smart now. They've got two of the last two defensive players of the year with Jaren and Smart. Ja Morant's going to be coming back with something to prove. And I think if they can stay healthy, obviously Brandon Clark dropped last year, Steven Adams dropped last year, so they didn't have them, which resulted in them getting swept or 4-1 by the Lakers.
No, they ended up getting 2.
Did they get 2?
Yeah.
4-2 by the Lakers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Grizzlies are a pretty dark horse. So obviously they were the second seed team this year. So Grizzlies and Pelicans, I should have put in my Western Conference prediction, but I still think they don't beat the Clippers. So
yeah, agreed.
We'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for joining us this week. We appreciate it. Make sure you guys are following us on the socials. We put out snippets a few times a week on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. So make sure you guys are following us on whatever podcast streaming platform you guys are listening on. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you next week.